welcome to another episode of Jim's Summer Garden. Okay, so you can tell when it's starting to get to the start of the year because you can start putting seeds. And now, leeks are one seed that you can put in quite early. You know, they will germinate in reasonably cool temperatures. Now, most certainly you can sow these in sort of February, March time. So, because we're sort of well into March now, I'll start putting these. Now, these are the seeds that come from Frenchie. These are the leeks. Now, seeds I'm going to put in. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some in now, see how they go. You know, we could have a change in the weather, but because I've got plenty of seed, what I'm going to do is grow some now, and then see how we get on with those. If they don't germinate or we have some problems, you know, there'll always be some seed. And then we'll go off a bit further. You know, there's loads of seed in there, more than I could possibly need. So I'm going to put in. I always grow my leeks in sort of tall pots like that, and I'll be growing a couple of pots. Now, don't worry if you know, if you haven't got your seeds yet, you got plenty of time to be sowing these. You know, you can sow leeks right up until June really, but I'm going to be putting one in now. So I'm just going to fill the pot up almost to the top, about an inch from the top. So this is the clover compost, as you can see. You know, it is really good quality stuff. I mean, I've got some in a little dolly tub here. You can see, I mean, this is really good quality. You know, I was explaining in the last episode that the clover compost is really good. So I'll just put this on the ground. So I realise that the camera's rattling all over the place at the minute. So I'll just put this down. So I've filled that. As soon as I fill that down, it's about kind of an inch off the top of the pot. And what you want to do is get another little pot, a smaller pot, and just, you know, so you don't sort of compress the compost down too much. Give that a quick lucky tap, as they say. And you can see that sort of ended up around sort of an inch, just over an inch off the top. Now, what I'm going to do is, you know, you don't sow leeks too deep. You know, you want to just get them below the ground. Now, leek seeds are a lot black little. I'll just show you what they look like. So that's what the seeds actually look like. Sort of sharp, little like little black pieces of coal. So I'm just going to sprinkle them on. Now, if anything, I've probably got more than I need here. You know, you don't sprinkle them too much, but what you do is you sow them in here. As soon as they've germinated and grown to about 4 inches high, what you can do is pull them out, and then you can either put them out into the ground or you can separate them out and, you know, sort of do that. So don't worry about if they're too close. I'll put a reasonable amount in there, probably more than I was planning to be honest with you. But I can be sowing some more later anyway. So all you need to do is a real small sprinkle of compost on the top, like that. You literally just want to cover the seeds. You don't want to go any more than that. You can put, if you want to be fancy, you can put vermiculite on top of them, or anything like that. Now, the one thing that you do need to do, make sure I've covered a bit more in there. The one thing you do need to do is make sure that there's no air pockets around the seed. So as soon as you've got a good sprinkling of compost on there, get your pot again and just push them down, so you know that the seed's in contact with the compost. Obviously label them up. So I don't actually know the breed, so I'll just put leek. I'm only growing one anyway this year. So always label up so you know what's going on. I'll give them a little bit of water, not too much, just a sprinkling of water to start them off. I'm not going to cover them or anything, I'm just going to leave them like that in the greenhouse, reasonably high up, so if we get a frost, if you think hot air always rises, so with any seedlings like that, always keep them as high up as you can, so I'm going to leave them on the surface pretty much. Leave them in as close to the middle of the greenhouse as you can, as high up as you can, and then that's the last bit that gets cold, if you like. So I'll give them a bit of water, and that'll be ready for later on. So next thing we want to do is the asparagus. I need to get a tray and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I'm just going to grow the asparagus in these sort of little modules. This is an old one. Now, asparagus grows really slowly. You know, it's going to take potentially 5 years before the plant comes to fruition and you can start cropping off it. So what I recommend is, if you haven't got any asparagus and you want to crop it before sort of at least 2 or 3 years of growing the plant, what I suggest you do is get yourself some mail order roots sent through the post to you, so you can plant them in the ground and do it that way. It can be a little bit expensive, but shop around and you can get them reasonably cheaply. I wouldn't go to a garden centre because they are really expensive at garden centres, I've noticed, and now's the kind of right time of the year to be putting them in. But I've already got asparagus, if you haven't seen before, and what I'm going to be doing is growing some from seed that I collected last year. Now the seed pod, let me just show you, the seed pod, bright red, they're like little teeny sort of cherries to start. I don't know if you can see that. Now if you break the seed pod up, now they've dried over the winter, what you can get is, let's find another one. What you get is these little, in each one you kind of get 4, you can see that little teeny black seed. Now each of the, so in each little berry, if you like, you'll get 4 seeds. Now what I suggest you do is in each one of these put 2, because the germination is pretty good. I mean, so there's 6 of them in there actually. Don't worry about the rest of the berry. If there's still bits of it left in, that's not going to hurt anybody. So all you need to do is basically get the little berry like that in between your fingers, and just sort of do that with it, if you know what I mean. And then the little seeds will pop out. I would say in a cell kind of that big, if you can see them, you want about 2 seeds in each one. You can always go back and put some more seeds in if they don't germinate, but I wouldn't put any more than 2 in, because you don't want to get them crowded in there, and they're not the easiest things to split out, to be honest with you. So, as I say, these haven't cost me anything, these seeds. These are ones that I collected from the plants last year. And what I'll be doing is growing them in here, in a mind to potting them up later on in the year into some bigger pots, and then I'll, as soon as I've got them into bigger pots, I'll sort of grow them on for perhaps another 12 months, then I'll put them outside, probably kind of this time next year. Now I did do this not last year, the year before, and the plants are still growing. Now asparagus is perennial, in other words it'll grow every year, you don't need to keep growing it. So as soon as you've got the plants established and you look after them, what you need to be doing is kind of this time of the year you need to be mulching them after they've got established. So I'll be putting some chicken muck on mine this year and some wood chip, just to just to look after them. Now they don't like the ground to be too wet. You need to have reasonably well drained soil. So if your soil's quite heavy, you need to be adding some gravel in there with the soil, or some sharp sand. Now I've got a few seeds left, so I'm just going to distribute them across. So I've got 2 or 3 seeds in each of the modules. I don't know if you can see that. What I've done is I've just pressed them down slightly with my finger into the holes. Now what I'm going to do is just sprinkle a little bit more compost. Again, you need to make sure that the compost is in contact with the seed. And the seed's going to end up something like about 1/4 of an inch under the ground, to be honest with you. They are reasonably slow germinating, so what you need to do is just push them down. Not too hard. You don't want to sort of put them too hard. Now what I'm going to do with that now is I'm just going to water that, and I'm going to put a piece of glass on the top. So as soon as I've hang on a sec. As you can see, they've ended up being probably about 1/4 of an inch down. So I've pushed the soil down, so there's like the soil's kind of got to about quarter of an inch off the top of the cells. Then what I'll do, you can see this, I'm just going to put a piece of glass over the top, so I'll end up with something looking like that, and that'll keep those more than protected until it gets a little bit warmer. Now what you need to do is obviously keep an eye out. As soon as they start to grow, take the glass off them, because what you don't want them to do is for them to grow up and hit the glass. So as soon as, keep your eye on them, obviously just every few days just lift the glass up, have a look. If they need a little bit more water, give them a little bit more water. You don't need much in there. But as soon as you start to see a little bit of green off any of them, whip the glass off. They've germinated at that point, and then just leave them to grow. As soon as we get to sort of May time, these can go outside. There's no reason why they need to grow inside the greenhouse. These can go outside. I would suggest as soon as they get to kind of that high, these can get pot bound really quickly. You don't want them to get pot bound. So as soon as they get to kind of that high, take them out, pot them up into a plant pot around kind of that big, and then grow them in there for about perhaps another 4 months, 3 or 4 months. Then you want to plant them up into pots that big, and then as soon as they've been in there, this time next year, for the rest of the year they can go in there, and then this time next year they can be planted out into the garden with the rest to augment the others. But as I've said, asparagus really is a perennial plant. As long as you look after it, you won't need to sort of add any more to it. But what I have found is a lot of people who successfully grow asparagus, they have it for about 4 or 5 years, and then what they tend to do is grow another row, grow that up, and then start to crop off the new ones, and then take the old ones out and do it that, so you kind of growing new plants. So the plants are no more than sort of 4 or 5, 6 years old, just like strawberries in fact. So but I know there are people, I've had comments before on the channel where people have been growing it for 20 years and it's still growing, but what you'll see is a peak in the production and then it will start to drop off. But that's what I've noted people doing in the past. Okay, so you saw last year me showing you how to make this, which is basically what I call the parsnip propagator. And all it is a whole series of bits of plastic like that, set in a sort of holder, which I cut out of some Suffolk board off a house, just a bit of wood at the bottom, just hold it all together. And basically what I can do is plant in there parsnip plants. Or any plants in fact, but basically parsnip plants, and then when you come to plant them out, what you can do is pull this off the plant, leaving you with an undisturbed plug, if you like. Then you can put that in the ground and the roots don't get disturbed. So I just wanted to put a sort of quick comment out on this video that you don't need to go to the bother of making all of this. And I realise not everybody's got the bits of kit to sort of cut things up, and basically all you need is a Coca-Cola bottle. Now I did do a session last year, if you look back, 100 ways of using Coca-Cola bottles, pot bottles. This wasn't one of the 100, so this is perhaps the 101 reason for saving them. But there's a whole raft of things you can do with pot bottles, and obviously rather than throw them in the bin, why not recycle them and use them for other things? I mean, apart from the obvious way you can cut the bottom off and make a plant pot out of it, or you can make a small cloche. So if you cut the bottom off that, there's no reason why you can't sit it over a little pot like that. So put your seeds in there and then cut that off at the bottom, sit that over the top of that like a little cloche. All that kind of stuff you can make out of pot bottles. You can also make watering devices. That was quite popular. We had quite a few comments where you make a hole in the bottom, cut the bottom off and turn it upside down, and then with a watering can you fill it with water, and then that'll sort of drip through onto your tomatoes and stuff like that potentially would want a drip water feed rather than being all in one go. But I just wanted to explain to you how's the best way of making a sort of propagated like this. Now, I'm going to be doing this for quite a few crops this year, so I need to make some more of these, but maybe I won't get the time to make them, so this is possibly the way I'll go forward this year as well. But if you look at the bottom of the bottle, there's like a line running round like that. So with some nail scissors, you need some quite sharp scissors. It's almost as though you know, the bottles are actually made to do this with them. What I suggest you do, I'll get rid of all the residual pop out of them, or whatever's in there, possibly even what's in there. With the top on, because you're going to have to push it to pierce it. Push the scissors in to the bottle like that, and then cut around the line where the line is on the bottle. There, just go around with the scissors, small cuts, and then if you go around nice and neatly, what you want to do is take your time with this and cut it with a nice sharp pair of scissors. The reason being is this is the edge that's likely to come into contact with your hands. Now if you're left with any sharp edges on here, it's your hands that are going to get cut. So as you can see there, I've got no sharp edges on there, so that's, you know, that's nice and sort of smooth. Because it's plastic and because of the thickness of it, if you get jagged edges on there, it can potentially be sharp enough to cut your skin potentially, so just be careful. Now if you look at the top of the bottle, there's actually another line running around the top of the bottle, and it's just where the bottle starts to sort of come in. So in exactly the same way, what you want to do is, if I can find the line again, there it is. Go in again with the scissors and just go around and cut round that line. You can always trim it up later with a bigger pair of scissors, but most certainly when you're cutting the bottle for the first time like this, I would suggest you use some sharp nail scissors, and it needs to be reasonably sharp as well. You know, don't try and do this with blunt scissors. And it needs to be like pointed scissors like that, so you can sort of stab it in and get it sort of going. So what you end up with is then like a tube like that. Now you'll also notice, because they actually make these bottles to do this, you'll see I don't know if you can see that, but there's a line running up there. Can you see that? So all you need to do then is, with either, you can use some bigger scissors at this point, but the small scissors will do the job just the same. Cut up that line. There you go. That's it. But as I say, I would recommend that you use sharp scissors. Don't try and do this with blunt scissors. It won't cut well. So then what you end up with is the tube that's now cut, so effectively a flat sheet which will naturally go around into a tube. Now all you need to do now is get an elastic band or a piece of string or anything just to tie it up into that position. You can put a bit of tape on there, which is what I've done in the past, or what you can do is if you get a box which will take a multiple of these, then you can just sit them in there, and because you've got lots of them next to each other, they will actually just stay in that kind of shape. But what you can do, you can use a cable tie. You know, you can just get a cable tie and just put that round there and cable tie that on to keep it up like that. Or you can get the smaller bottles. I've seen this done before as well, where you get this is a 2 litre bottle. If you get the 1 litre bottles, which are about sort of that wide, cut it in exactly the same way with some sharp scissors. Cut a strip out of that, and then push that over there, which will hold that like that. That's all you need to do. These will naturally sit upright. You know, you don't need any support or anything like that. And what you can do then is, as soon as you've got that like that, fill it with your compost. Obviously, just like a pot. You can put your parsnip seed or your beetroot seed or whatever you want in the top, and then that will sit upright. If you've got a number of them, obviously it'll be more stable. You can water them, you can see the roots growing through, and then as soon as you're ready, either take off whatever's holding them in, and then you can unravel it like that, and then you've got your plug ready to go into the ground. So the reason I'm telling you now is obviously in the next couple of months you're going to need a few of these if you're going to be growing your parsnips like this, or your beetroot or whatever else. Now's the time to start collecting your bottles, so that's why I'm telling you now. So any Coke bottles you get, what I would suggest you do is rinse them out. I've actually got a dustbin full of these down there, so I've been collecting them all winter. So you can pull the label off quite easily like that, and then you're ready to go. So all you need is a nice sharp pair of scissors, and cut it exactly as I've just explained to you. Obviously there are loads of other reasons for using, or loads of other things you can use for Coke bottles for. If you look back on the videos, you'll find the one where it explains 100 different ways of using a pot bottle, but this is one really good way, and I can't sort of recommend this enough. If you want good parsnips which germinate really well, doing it like this is most certainly a really successful way. Last year, it's not the first time I've done this. I've always just tied them together before, but I built this last year. There's an episode on building this as well. But every single parsnip I put into here germinated, and I actually did 2 lots in here. And within a few days it germinated. If you put parsnips in the ground, they can potentially take a month to germinate, so you don't know what's going on. So you can germinate them in here and put them in the ground, and you get really nice germination in that. The other thing that I did do last year is chit the seeds for the first time. And all I did for chitting the seeds is you need a tray, just something like this, that you get like mushrooms or raspberries or something from the supermarket. Sorry, mushrooms. The raspberries ones have got holes in, I think. Put some tissue paper in the bottom and wet it, and then put your parsnip seeds on the top, and then just keep that moist. And the little parsnip seeds will put out little roots, chitting basically. As soon as you've done that, then you can put them into your pipe, or into the ground, or wherever. That's a good bit of advice for you. Okay, so it's a little bit earlier than I normally do it, to be honest with you, and it depends on which part of the country you're in. But I'm going to put my dahlias in some compost to start them off. Now, what I always do is put the dahlia tubers into a pot with some compost, grow them on in the greenhouse a little bit, or in the warm shed, as long as you've got a reasonable amount of light, and then I grow them till they're sort of that high, and then as soon as they're high, then they go out in the garden sort of May time. They are quite delicate towards frost, so you need to be careful. So what I actually do, I don't keep them in this greenhouse, I keep them in my other greenhouse where it's warmer, more sheltered. But basically what you want to do is a nice big pot like this. What you need to do is get some compost in the bottom. Now I'm putting a bit of clover in here. Now I don't normally use clover, to be honest with you. I normally use a sort of cheaper compost than clover, because you don't really need too much. Now what I do suggest you do is the stalks, what I always do is leave on sort of, I don't know if you can see that, a few inches. What I tend to do is cut them back. Anything that's dead, cut it out. Because that's not going to help, So I'm just cutting off the stalks. And what you want to do is the dahlia is going to grow from these sort of tubers. I don't know if you can see. Each one of these is like a little energy sac, if you like. Now there are a couple that are damaged, I've noticed. But they're kind of embedded in it. Now that's not going to cause any problem as such. There's no rot on there, which could potentially cause the others to become damaged. But I've got that sitting in the compost at the bottom. Now what you want to do is basically sprinkle some compost over the top of that. And this is a technique I've used for quite a few years, and I've never had too much bother. Now, if you just, I don't know if you can see the top of that, I'm just going to shake it a little bit till you start to see the tubers reappear. And then what you want to do is shake the tuber, shake the tuber like that. So what you're trying to do is get rid of all of the air pockets that are in there. So I realise the camera's bouncing them out of it. Now I'm just going to put more compost on top. Till I've just about covered the top of the tubers. Now, as I say, what I normally do is use a cheaper compost than this, to be honest with you. But that's just about covered. Now I've just got push that down as best you can. I'm just using the sort of my my fingers like that, if you like. So it's not. I'm getting rid of all the air pockets. Now you don't need to have the pot completely filled. So you can see I've got the stalk sticking out there. So all the tubers are covered. Now this compost is a little bit damp, but what I'm going to do is put a little teeny bit of water, not much. I'll just show you doing this. All I'm going to do is put about that much water. Now that doesn't seem a lot at all for the size of the pot, but all you got to do is get them started. So the thing you need to note is obviously if it freezes, obviously all of that water in there is potentially going to create sort of crystals, if you like. That's what's going to damage it. So I'm going to do that with the rest, and basically just pot them all up like that, and then I'm going to put them in the other greenhouse right way up like that, and just basically wait for them to shoot. Now what you can do, what I'm going to do, is I'll show you when I've done it properly, is I'm going to put some plastic around these, some bubble plastic, just to protect them a little bit, keep them nice and warm, and just to protect them from the frost a little bit more. But so I'll do that, and I'll show you what it looks like on as soon as I've done it. It may be on this episode, it may be on the next. Now, if your tubers have got to, this one's a bit bigger. Now I've had these dahlias quite a few years. Now this one, as you can see, is quite big. It's quite big. Now really, I want to split this, and the best way to do it is not necessarily this time of year, but what I could do with is actually breaking this down into two, because I think it's going to be it's going to be difficult to, whilst it's tough like this, it might be difficult to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to split that into two. I'm not quite sure whether it's best to do it now or later when it's actually growing. But watch this space. I'm going to have a read in my book and see which is the best way to split that. In the past, what I've done is I've split them when they've grown, when they're more supple and they tend to come apart a bit. What I might need to do is just put a, I don't know if it's right, just put a spade through that and chop it in half, but I'll see how we go. But I've got lots of others that are kind of that size that need to be potted up. So I think what I'll do is for now is just pot that up in a big pot and get that growing. But as I say, it is a little bit early for me to do this. I normally do this sort of April time, but because the weather that we've had at the minute, it is quite warm. I'm going to try and cash in on that and get the dahlias growing a bit earlier than I do normally. Okay, just a real quick update on the wormery. So as you can see, these baby worms are still sort of going mad in there. They've got a bit of dog hair in there. They've also got this paper. As you can see, if I pull it back, they've really eaten away. Now there's not a lot of food in here at the moment, which I'm quite mindful of, but because it's the time of year, you know, they are quite dormant. But it's looking a little bit wet in there. So what I'm going to do is just drain off a bit of water off the bottom, as I've showed you before. You know, just from the tap at the bottom there. So I'll drain off a little bit just after I've recorded this. But you can see all the worms are reasonably close to the surface. They've completely rattled through all of the vegetables I've put in. So I will start to put a bit more vegetable matter in there now. Now they've eaten through that. But these seeds you can see here, and these bits of sort of skin here. This is all that's left of the courgettes that I put in. You saw on a previous video. So as you can see, they are doing really well. But it's still a little bit cold for them. But I just thought I'd give you a quick update on the wormery. So that's I'll just put them back and put some bubble wrap around them again. But I will drain a bit of liquid off them later today when I get 5 minutes. Another good use for pot bottles. So this is where the dahlias will sit. Basically, I've just got I've just put this plastic here at the back. So you know, they've still got lots. So I'll put the dahlias in here as soon as they're all done. Then I'll pull this plastic over and just encase them in the plastic. Obviously, I don't want too much moisture in there, but you know, just to start them off. So I'll put the dahlias along here, and then I'll show you those when they start to sprout in a couple of weeks. So, I hope this episode has been of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you've got below, and I'll always get back to you. And I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's Allotment Garden.